Good afternoon, everyone. Again, to God be the glory, and I want to thank Him again for the blessings that He gives us each and every day. Positive from this past week's game is it's great to know that we're 1-0 in the conference. It's great to see that we're number one in the country in kickoff return. In the FCS, we average 30 yards per return. We're number 6 in the country in our red zone defense, which is 61% of the time when they get inside the red zone, they score points. And so that's been a fantastic job that our defense has done. Another positive thing is offense. We rushed over 200 yards for this last week was, I think, was really the factor in our ball game for us to have success of winning it. Turn the page over here again to Monmouth. They're another good football team. They have a lot of talent. Coach Callahan is probably one of the most well-respected coaches really in the country, whether you're talking FBS or FCS, obviously more than the FCS ranks, but he is very, very well known around the country in how he handles his program. And so, again, they've done a very good job. Obviously, they did a good job last year and was able to beat us. Offensively, they have a lot of good running backs. They got different types of running backs. The Cheney young man is a very explosive young man, runs hard, a very, very physical player, very good quick feet, can make changes of directions, and has good speed. 2 very good receivers. Again, kind of 2 different types of receivers. One's a tall guy and can run well, and they got one guy that's a shorter guy and they can quick and has excellent speed. Quarterback is solid. They play a little bit of both quarterbacks. I think they're very similar to a certain extent. They can take off running and move the chain, but their attributes are more of being able to throw the football and be able to throw it with some accuracy. Defensively, they're very physical. I think their 4-down linemen are pretty good. No question on their defensive side, you start looking at where number 30's at. And he's a guy that's a very good football player. I think he's one of the better football players in the country on the defensive side of the ball. They're first in pass defense in the Big South Conference in their first 7 ball games. They're number 1. So their secondary, I think, is very good. They got good corners. They got good safeties. And so they really do have a good defense and been able to do some things in that standpoint. But probably still kind of shaking my head or the stunning here, they've already blocked 8 kicks in 7 ball games. I mean, I don't need to say anything anymore. 8 kicks that they blocked in 7 ball games, and that gets your attention right away. Again, they block field goals, they block punts. So there's been a variety of people done it. Obviously, Mike Basile, number 30, he's definitely in the mix and doing all those things. I think he has 3 or 4 of those blocks in himself. So, again, as I mentioned here, they are a very solid team. They're good offensively, they're good defensively, they're good special teams. And so we have to play very, very well. This has to be our best football game, and we have to play to be able to be successful in this game. The injury report, Tanner Hartman is out. Ethan Crawford, doubtful. Will Johnson's out. Damian King, doubtful. Then moving on to the keys of the game, I got to start with special team. When you got 8 blocks, you start with special teams. It's going to be very, very vital in this football game in every facet. They do have good returners also. Didn't mention that earlier, but we must win the special teams. The other part is probably really explosive plays. There's another key into the game here, I think, from a defensive point of view from our side of it. We need to have 3 or less explosive plays. And I'm saying 3 or less explosive plays from a 20 yards or more that they may gain. From an offensive point of view, we need to get 6 or more. And that's a little bit different and more of a run game and a pass game, saying that we need to have 3 runs over 10 and we need to have 3 passes over 20. I think if we have those explosive plays, and hopefully we have them 3 or less, we have 6 or more in those parameters, I think that gives us a greater chance to be successful in this game. But it's going to be a tough ball game. It's going to be an exciting ball game. I encourage our fans to come on out and support us like you've always done. I think a homecoming should bring you more out to see the festivities before and during and after the game. We do need your support. You've been fantastic throughout the year, and I just ask you on behalf of our players and coaches to come on out and let's field the bill.
Coach, Erwin DeSources was not listed on the injury report last week, not listed today, didn't play against Kennesaw State. Is there something going on there where a senior who has played well this year has been demoted and didn't get to play against KSU?
No, we just hadn't played up to our standard. I guess the simplest way to put it. And just like anywhere else, we look at certain positions and we see the productivity out of it. And we decided to make a decision in the last ball game to play a little bit more Devontae Brown. Devontae Brown played very well in the ball game, and so we're right now playing Devontae Brown. Aaron DeSource still is available to play, so we just have to decide on how much he plays as far as the ball game goes. So we're anticipating to play, but right now Devontae Brown is our starter.
Yeah, I think along those lines, Brown said he found out late in the week that he was going to be the guy going in. And did he exceed your expectations out there on Saturday night with the way
you said
he
Devontae
played?
Brown? Is that what you
Yeah.
said? Yeah. Devontae Brown, I don't know if I think the consistency of him being able to play as well as he did, I think that was maybe a slight surprise. He's shown he has a talent. He's been inconsistent in practice, been inconsistent when he's had snaps in the game, even earlier this year. And so, again, we just decided that he had been more productive in practice, particularly last week. And we thought that he deserved an opportunity to see what he can do, get more reps to see if he gets more production out of it, and it works out that way. So a little bit of surprise of being consistent throughout the game and being so productive of doing it, and particularly on an offense like you were, you had to have your assignment correctly. Obviously, otherwise you're going to have create some big plays for them. And so he played well, and we believe that at this point in time he deserves to be the starter.
You spoke on the conference call how you felt the offensive line going with a 6 different combination was a true concern going into the game. What did the 5 who started, plus getting Aaron Campbell to come off the bench and play multiple positions do to really shore up a unit that really got going against Kennesaw State?
Well, I think, again, it just give a lot of credit to Coach Wagner. Our offensive line coach did a great job of putting together, the 6 guys, I guess, that we played. They decided to go with Lozano, just that he practiced very well after talking about it and discussing what was our best scenario. We thought the better combination is having Campbell maybe not start and then just kind of put him in when we felt necessary to do that, and then just play those 6 guys. And really, Julio did a fantastic job in the reps that he played, and I think just seeing him and how he played, decided to stay with him mostly there at the tackle spot. Again, it's kind of a similar deal that he's earned the opportunity to play more. I mean, we see good production, then we'll give a guy more reps.
To get a road win and to do it in conference play, what was the significance of that, I guess?
Oh, I think it just gives confidence, continue to give you confidence on that. We know we've always been inconsistent. I guess it's probably playing on the road. We've always have played some good games on the road. We may have not played some not so good games, but I think overall our guys are ready to play, and it was a great job by our coaching staff getting our guys focused, staying in tune. We talked about the word of responsibility. Everybody has responsibility to play well, to play hard, to do your role, to know what you need to do, and then do what you're supposed to do on a consistent basis. And I think they exemplified that to the fullest in this last ball game. And obviously the challenge is, can you do it every week? And that's how you define champions, is they do it every single week.
You spoke after Saturday's game that the drive to end the first half showed Calvert's increased maturity, his poise in the pocket, and his understanding of how to operate within the offense, to go down in a 2-minute offense and score to retake the lead and seize momentum going into halftime. When you went back and evaluated that tape Sunday, what did you see during that drive that showed that he's making the right reads, he's tucking it when he needs to, and it seems like the entire offense has confidence in him to make those plays?
I think the word comes as poise. And I think just the other phrase, I guess, per se, is understanding the offense, understanding the situation. We get into a lot of situational football. There's one thing to do it in practice, another thing to do it in a game. And so I think the awareness and the situation that was going on, that was very impressive. And so I think every week, every play, he's gaining tremendous amount of experience, tremendous amount of confidence in himself. But I also think it's a tremendous amount of confidence that he's also seeing within his own teammates, offensively and defensively.
Coach, if you could talk a little bit about Frankie Hickson, not only the big play, he had the 99-yard kickoff return on Saturday, but of course he's maturing into one of the better special teams players in the country right now for such a young local product. How has he developed?
Oh, I can say Frankie Hickson is a great work ethic. First thing to start, a hard worker, determined, passionate, confident in his abilities, team player, goes hard all the time. And so, again, his best ball is still ahead of him. We were glad to see him right away as coming as a redshirt freshman, accepting his role as being able to kickoff return, playing on some other special teams too, as our gunners on certain things of that nature on the punt team and also on punt return, doing some things. And then he's also contributing very, very much so in the running back. So whether he's carrying the ball 5 times or he's carrying it 20 times, he's going to be very, very productive. And so everybody knows that they have a role. It's not about how many reps. It's about your quality reps that you do and what you do with them. And he exemplifies that to the fullest here. So exciting player, and we hope that he'll continue to play well.
Coach Callahan this morning talked about your receiving core, the veteran receiving core, the depth on offense a little bit. That was a real concern for him. Do you see some avenues there for your team to be successful on Saturday with as far as throwing the football?
Well, we feel good about our whole receiving core, even including our tight ends. We feel very, very good about it. Those guys have played a lot of football as far as you're talking Farrell and Shales, Parker, Kuman, those guys there, and they've got other guys behind them that have played quite a bit of football and been very productive too. So, again, I think it's a combination of our offensive line giving protection for Calvert to be able to do what he needs to do, and then our Calvert and our receivers knowing where they need to be and having that great chemistry between each other. So we're seeing like we are getting to a little bit of good rhythm here in particularly in the last 2 ball games. And so we hope to continue that. And so we exploit all areas. We do the short throws. We do the intermediate throws. We also go take the ball down the field. So I think we make sure that everybody has to cover the whole football field, horizontally and vertically.
Coach, you've heard much banter last 48 hours from the kids regarding last year's game and how bitter it was as far as a motivating factor for Saturday?
Just a little. Again, I think it's more of our coaches and ourselves. We're more concerned about us improving. We talk about that all the time. And, again, we're aware of it and all that, but last year is last year. And so just move on. I kind of talk about that aspect of it and say we got to be better than we were last ball game, not necessarily what happened last year, because this year is a different team. There's different players. And so I think we focus on that. So I think, obviously we're all aware of it, but we're not going to harp on that. We understand it, but we got to know that we got to play our best football game.
Another thing Coach Callahan brought up in the teleconference was the balance, that he was scared of the balance that he sees in this offense. The first time this year you guys rushed for 200, threw for 200 against Kennesaw State. Is that a positive going forward, that you stuck with the run, and you're now seeing the balance start to come to fruition with being able to complement your passing game with the run attack?
Well, that's what we always try to be. We want to be a balanced team. Obviously each game is very unique in how you get things done. And so we're going to continue to try to be a balance. We feel very good about our running backs to continue to run hard. Offensive line, just got to give them a little bit of crease. Just get a body on body and let our running backs do their thing. And the receivers, I think that's another improvement, that the receivers have blocked very, very well too. And so I don't want to not mention that, because that's a very, very vital part. When you start having long runs, there's no doubt your offensive line creates things, but also your receivers are downfield, they're blocking. Then our passing game, again, I think Calvert is continuing to get better and better. I think we're getting a little bit better continuity with our receivers and him, and that's what we want to do. We want to be a balanced attack on offense.
Coach, there was a punt return miscue with Damian King back there. I think that was his second of the season, where when he's returning, there's just something. I know at the Tech game, he ran back in the end zone. With such an explosive talent like him, is there just a lapse when he's back there returning punts, or is there anything you can speak on with that?
Well, no question about that. There were some mistakes by him as far as not being able to take care of the ball and doing the things in the right way. We're evaluating that process as far as is there a change that needs to be made to put someone else back there. So I think we'll just continue to work with him, but we also need to make some decisions on making a move to somewhere else. B.J. Farrell might be the guy a little bit more to take more of those reps. Again, Damian King, unfortunately, may not be available this ball game anyway. But again, we work on those things in practice. But like I said, some people respond in practice, some people respond in the game, and unfortunately, there's been a few times where Damian King hasn't responded in the right way. But we'll keep working with him and continue to improve.
How confident do you feel in your defense being able to stop Levon Chaney, or at least contain him?
Well, I think containing him is the right thing there. I think if we can limit the explosive plays, yeah, he might get some 10-yard runs or 8-yard runs and all that. We don't want to get it into, that plus 20 yards or more where he's gaining some big plays. Again, he's hard to tackle, so that's going to be a vital thing for us to contain him, to make sure that we have our gap responsibilities correct, and we got to gain tackle. We got to make sure we got our guys around the football and hitting him very, very well and doing some things that are wrapping him up.
Kennesaw State game, all I can say is wow. Definitely exciting to see how hard our guys played from the start to the finish. The thing that encouraged me was from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, those young men believed, and I was really excited how we responded, especially in the red zone, because anytime you face an option team, they're going to have an opportunity to make plays. But when it comes time for us to make a play, I felt very good that our guys was confident to make a play. Moving on towards Monmouth, Coach Callahan and his staff, I have a lot of respect for them. I think they're excellent coaches. Right now, they are a very good team. You look at the quarterback, he's a very accurate passer, Mr. Williams. I've been real impressed just watching him in film in his decision-making. He only has 2 interceptions on the year, so he takes care of the ball. Also, they have Mr. Benji. He's a redshirt freshman, and I've been real impressed with him. So I think they have two very good quarterbacks that they can utilize. And so we know our back end, we're going to have to do a great job of keeping the ball in front. We're going to have to do a great job of matching the receivers because these 2 young men can throw very good football. So running back-wise, I'm really impressed with Levon Chaney. I think he's an exciting player. He's a dual threat as far as carrying the ball as well as catching the football. So I know we're going to have to do a great job containing him. I'm excited about the opportunity. But they also have 2 other running backs, in my opinion, that are very good. So they have 3 seniors at running back that do a very nice job. The receivers, I think we all know about Mr. Reggie White Jr. He had a phenomenal game against us last year. I think, to me, that was kind of his breakout game because after that, he really showed himself to be a very dominant player. So real excited about him, and then you got Mr. Ambush. So, I think this team coming in has our full attention. We're excited about having an opportunity to get a big win to start off Big South play. But we know that this team is coming in feeling very confident that they can make it a real good game. And so I'm excited about the opportunity to play Monmouth. I'll take any questions at this time.
You kind of touched on it already, the confidence your defense has after last Saturday. Was it kind of a bend but don't break mindset going into that game with the approach?
Well, no. Anytime you face an option team and just talking to enough coaches, believe me, I've communicated with quite a bit, especially defensive coaches, in regards to what we can do to be aggressive against the option. And really, the more information I got back is just play your assignment. They may pick up yardage, but when they get in the red zone, you kind of know what plays most option teams are going to go to. And then your goal is to make sure your young men understand that so they can really be a step ahead. And I believe that's what you saw. Our young men kind of had an idea what plays would be coming their way. So therefore, it allowed them to be aggressive. The 2 touchdowns we gave up really were explosives where, we didn't take care of our jobs. The 1 touchdown they got, short yardage, a short field, and we got them to 3rd down. And we kind of anticipated the play. We just was a little soft where the quarterback turned it up. So, you might say it's a bend but don't break mentality because, I had to learn the hard way. You keep trying to bring pressure, you can get exposed. And one of the touchdowns that we did give up, I brought pressure. So, once again, our young men responded very well to that adversity. And, we did a great job in the second half.
Watching Presbyterian's game against Monmouth Thursday night, PC got some pressure on the quarterbacks, delivered some big hits, and aside from Chaney getting a few big runs here and there where he showed his explosiveness, something that's been lacking this year, what did you see that you can game plan around to really get some pressure on those quarterbacks and really get them, playing out of schedule?
Well, our whole goal is to make sure that we try to confuse the quarterback as far as some things that we may be doing coverage-wise, and that'll allow our D-line the opportunity to do what they do best, and that's pass rush against the quarterback. We do know if we sit back and, just try to keep the ball in front. Like I said, these quarterbacks are very good to take their first progression read. They're not trying to, do things that they're not capable of doing within their progression or their reads. If the first read is there, the quarterback is going to take it. So you ain't going to get no pass rush, no matter how much you're trying to bring. So we do understand coverage-wise. Me and Coach Roberts have sat down and talked. I feel very good about the plan that we have in place to try to bring some confusion with some man coverage, and then also some quarter stuff that we normally do. So I think that's going to be the key to try to take away that first read to allow our D-line to be able to get after the quarterback.
Coach, in the first quarter and a half on Saturday, your defense was out in the field quite a bit with the 3-and-outs and then the Hickson return. How happy were you with them to stay focused and be conditioned well enough to stop them?
Well, like I said, one thing about the young men that I have this year, they love to play. They love the adversity. They get excited about it. And I think that's half the battle when you're on defense is knowing that, I want to make a play. We have a lot of young men that want to make a play. So when things may not be going the way we really want to, a lot of young men, I don't have young men that want to hide in the corner and not get back out there. They're excited. From Solomon McGinty to Jawan Wells to Chris Turner, I can keep naming names of young men that they are excited to get back out on the field. So they relish it. And I think that helps us as we, play games and maybe stay on the field longer than what we would like. Those guys get excited about it. And so that's very encouraging.
What did Devontae Brown do to elevate himself on the depth chart?
Made plays. That's our whole philosophy. We're going to play our playmakers. And for us, I know a lot of young men get caught up in the depth chart and who's going to get their picture on that Jumbotron on Saturday evening. But for us, it's about how many young men can help us make plays. And so, Devontae Brown has done a great job of consistently getting better. And, Coach Singletary felt like he had a great week. He was very good with his mental assignments throughout the week. And so Coach Singletary and myself made a decision, let's go ahead and give him the opportunity to be the starter. He did a phenomenal job. But Aaron DeSource is a very good football player. I'm excited about him. And to me, the more young men you got that can make plays, the greater your depth. So for me and the young men, no, I don't really get into who's starting, who's not starting. I'm trying to find how many young men I have within our platoon that will allow us to make plays.
You mentioned Irwin's sources, and Coach Gill said it was the decision not to play him was because he wasn't meeting the standards that you guys wanted to see. And for a senior, what is it that he's not meeting that allowed you to make the decision not to play him against Kennesaw State and move him down the depth chart? And what do you want to see from him moving forward so he can get back into the rotation?
Well, I will say this. You got to remember in November he had an ankle injury, and the young man is pushing. So I'm not going to sit here and say he's not giving us everything he has. I think as the body wears down, the body wears down. And so, our goal is to make sure each game will allow him to stay as healthy as possible to give us the best effort. And then once again, going against a Kennesaw State team that we knew would do a lot of cutting, I think for him, that was a big obstacle a little bit because, Charleston Southern, a similar team where he got injured, they did a lot of cutting. So, like I said, I'm not discouraged by Aaron DeSource. He's going to be fine. He's a playmaker for us. He's shown that last year when we played against Monmouth, he had an excellent game. So, I don't expect anything different. He's going to show up. He's going to make plays because he's shown that in the last 2 years.
Jeremy Peters has been banged up a little bit this year. Got some plays at Kennesaw. Speak to his development where he is, and Brandon Tillman also had a nice play in the second half. So as opposed to hearing more from Brandon earlier this year, haven't heard as much the last couple of weeks from him. So Jeremy and Brandon, where are they right now?
Oh, they're both doing very well. It boils down to how the game is going. Jeremy Peters has battled a hamstring injury. He's been fighting tooth and nail to come back, and our whole goal is just to make sure when he comes back he's healthy, because we know we're going to need him down the stretch. He feels very good. I think that was exhibited in the game against Kennesaw. He did a nice job taking on blocks, getting off blocks, and he brings a physicality and another dynamic as far as physicality that we really like about him. I think you're going to start seeing him make more plays. I think you're going to start seeing him have a bigger role as his health continues. Brandon Tillman, he's having great value with us on special teams. At safety, he's the third guy, and it really depends on how Alpha and Corbin's doing. In the back end, if they're not getting a lot of activity, I'm not going to really rotate just because they're doing well, and then they are my eyes, so they already have the continuity going, and I don't want to mess that up. But Alpha, needed a breather, so Brandon's the first guy I'm going to put in. Like I said, his future is very bright. I'm so excited about this young man. He has exceeded my expectations to be a true freshman.
How do you contain Levon Chaney, and how big of a part of the game plan is that on Saturday?
Well, like I said, Monmouth has excellent athletes. And Coach Callahan and, like I said, and his staff have done a great job developing those guys. So you try to put 8, 9 in the box, you still got Ambush to worry about, and you still got Reggie White to worry about. If you back up and go 7, then, like you said, Levon Chaney, he can be definitely a factor in the game. So our goal is just try to mix it up, try to really study the film to see what their tendencies may be, so we don't get ourselves caught to where they know what we're in. And going against this offense for 3 years, this is probably one of the better coaching staffs that can really dictate what you're going to be in by their formations. And so we've been doing a lot of studying just to try to, hopefully be able to confuse them where they think we may be in an 8-man box, 9-man box, but we're really not. And so that's the goal, to try to contain that running game.
Yeah, just some reflections on the game from last week. I thought our guys played really, really hard. I thought they fought the entire duration of the football game. I like the way that they played physically and mentally. We didn't have a lot of mental errors. I thought our guys did a really good job of getting their hands and their feet and their hats in the right place in the run game, like we had talked about last week. That was some of the improvements we wanted to see made, and they did just that. So that was really, really exciting to see. A lot of different footballs were passed around last week. I think we had 11 or so different people touch the football, which is good to see. Just because we don't play favorites in this offense, everyone's going to have an opportunity to touch the football. It's good to see all 3 backs score a touchdown, which is nice to see. And then I thought Buckshot did a really good job of playing with his eyes last week, and he did a really good job of manipulating defenders and then keeping plays alive. They had a stingy defense, and for the most part, when things weren't open, we were able to keep a play alive and extend it and find people, relatively, 5-6 yards down the field, and a scramble turned into a 20, 30-yard gain here and there. So that was really good to see. So overall, I thought we made some improvements to our run game, and in the pass game, thought we were really balanced.
Was there a thought going into that game that you knew you were going to need to have some balance in a run game, not to put all the pressure on your quarterback in his first road start?
Yeah, like we said, they played a very unique defense, different from the defense we'd faced in weeks past, and so we knew that if we were going to have any success, we had to be able to distribute the football across the football field in the run game and pass game. And so the thought process going into the game was, hey, we're going to run the rock, and then when the situation presents itself, take advantage of their expectations of a certain formation. And we did just that on plenty of occasions.
What did you think of Buckshot's 2-minute drive there to end the first half? The poise, growth and maturity, and just the overall confidence to be able to go through his progressions, make the right reads, scramble when need to, and ultimately get into the end zone in a drive that really allowed Liberty to maintain momentum going into halftime.
Well, the thought process kind of going into that drive before half was to not get into any particular sense of urgency with him. I wanted him to play a clean football game from that moment there. And so we were aggressive in the play calling, but we didn't go into it letting him know or those guys know, hey, this is a 2-minute thought process. Be urgent. We went into a thought process of just play a very disciplined brand of football right now, and the ball is going to move down the field. And so I think that aided in our pursuit to try to, get the football in reasonable position to at least kick a field goal at worst. And we did a really good job of just sticking with it. I think there was a scramble on that drive in which he found somebody and he went down the sideline and got a bunch of yards. And then from there, there was roughly 2 minutes or so left on the clock. So we were trying to be very, very particular in where we were trying to get the football. Obviously, in a 2-minute drive, you want to extend the football game. And so we had called a lot of perimeter plays to get the ball, outside so we can stop the clock. And he did a good job of distributing the football, in the run game and the pass game because we had some RPOs attached to the run game. And he threw a bubble out there on the perimeter, and, we were able to get it outside. So that was fortunate to see him, distribute the football in that fashion.
How can a guy like Mike Basile impact your play calling?
Well, you got to have a hat for him. You got to always be cognizant of where he is on the football field, just because he plays a step faster than a lot of people. And a lot of people that we played against, he's a really good football player. His size and stature doesn't reflect that, but when you watch him on tape, he has a definite presence. And so, with that being said, you just got to make sure that you as a play caller and your offensive staff and the offensive unit understands what we're trying to get accomplished with each play call.
Joe, when I look at Buckshot, I think back to the touchdown he had to Dante at SMU, the touch. And it just seems like he's got the ability to put the ball where it's needed. Is that repetition, or there's some other things besides that go into a quarterback placing the ball right where it needs to be for his receiver?
We talk about the mental process all the time. I think we've talked about it in here a couple times, is seeing it before you ever do it on the football field, going through that routine prior to ever getting in this classroom or on that football field. And so, when they see a signal, as a quarterback, it's got to trigger in your mind. My thought process is X, Y, and Z. And I got to trust my eyes once I see this signal to deliver the football to where it needs to be. And so that week in particular, we worked on that route a great deal. And in every week since, we've done so as well. But with any of these routes, in money situations where there's a particular landmark involved, it's really about trusting your eyes and trusting your feet. You're going to deliver the football where it needs to be, but you have to be in a state mentally of trusting my ability to get the football there.
Monmouth has the top-ranked passing defense in the Big South. Basile in the back with the four corners, that's one aspect. But they have Leslie and Minnick who are great at, going after the quarterback. What challenges does Monmouth's pass defense pose with the ability to get pressure up front?
Well, after studying these guys, we kind of came to the conclusion that we've seen this defense before. It's very, very familiar. And looking at it, it kind of reminded us of the Seattle Seahawks defense. They're a very cover three oriented defense, with a post safety and very aggressive corners. And so, the nature of that defense is playing a physical brand of football and being disciplined in your fundamentals and techniques. And so with that being said, you have to be very, very particular in your hat placement in the run game, in addition to your footwork as a receiver, as a quarterback, as a lineman, as well as backs in the pass game. It's very, very, very important that you're disciplined and to what you're being taught, just because, that defense, they've seen everything you're going to see week in and week out, so they're well prepared for the pass game. And so it's just about us getting our landmarks and throwing the football to the right, the right people, the right spots on the field, because there's some voids and vacancies, in their defenses. But the front four gets a pretty good rush and allows those guys to take a little bit of the heat off the back end.
Coach, I believe no sacks on Saturday. Can you just speak to, I guess you'd say makeshift offensive line that there's been, and also Buckshot's ability to move outside the pocket when he needed to or when to get rid of the ball?
Well, I think our offensive staff, in addition to Dennis Wagner, has done a really good job of rotating our guys. With the exception of a few players, no one on our offensive line really plays one position. They have to learn both the tackle and guard position, and it's for situations like this. It's a very NFL-oriented thought process. You can't be one-dimensional in our offense, or really in any offense particular, because if you're only a left side guy and a situation presents itself where you're a backup and now there's an opportunity for you to play and you don't know any of the calls on the right side, then you've limited yourself. And so Coach Wagner's always believed in being able to play left and right so that when a situation presents itself, you can play. In addition to the sacks, I think, we called a pretty clean game in which we allowed Buckshot not to really get in any situations where they were going to bring heavy heat. And the times that they did, we were able to put that fire out, so to speak, in the run game and the pass game. I thought he did a better job of going through his progressions. He was very, very disciplined with his feet last week. You could see his eyes were in sync with what we were trying to get done with the footwork and the timing and rhythm with the wideouts. And so that's probably why, you saw 11 different receivers touch the footballs, because he was very disciplined in going through his progressions.
Coach, how have you seen one of your team captains and Tanner Hartman help guide and lead this offense despite being sidelined recently?
Well, the thing with Tanner is, he's a silent leader. But since he's been sidelined, it's been fortunate and refreshing to see that he's still part of the group. He's not, he hasn't, removed himself from the situation. You can see him day in and day out, week to week, still involved with the group, still, really being a veteran leader in the sense that he's coaching people up, and that's a difficult situation to be in when you're sidelined, because you don't always feel up to, participate, because you feel like, I'm not helping out much because I can't play. But I don't think that's the mentality he's approached this with. He's been very, very positive, and still working his best to get himself prepared, to play.
You mentioned 11 different targets, or 11 different receivers caught passes Saturday. 8 targets to tight ends. You got the fullback, Thomas Kennedy, finally involved. Is that the evolution of the offense in Buckshot's, I guess, his comfort level that he can, scan the field and find the best option, get those guys involved to make defenses respect the middle of the field more instead of just the wide receivers?
Yeah, week to week, like we said, the defenses are going to change. And situationally, defenses change, which, present different opportunities for different people to touch the football. We knew that they were an aggressive defense, and they were going to try to impose their will on us when they got into a favorable situation down and distance-wise. And so we did a really good job of distributing the football formationally differently than we had in weeks past, which allowed different people to touch the football. And so that's always going to be the case, is week in and week out. The offense is never going to be the same aesthetically, but the overall philosophy will always stay the same. Get the ball to your available receivers in space and let them do what they can do genetically.